as we continue, at least for my own mind, as the events of this country continue to unfold as far as this big election year, with all of the dramas and finger pointing and sometimes very harsh statements, I have found it to be a real test for my Dharma practice. For me not to get into being reactive and having the very same afflictions that I'm sort of like amazed at people arising in their minds. I don't want to have that happen in my own mind. And so I've been really trying to use all the events nationally and worldwide as part of my practice. And on the Bodhisattva path, these kind of degenerate times are like a gold mine. If we can really use the Dharma, it can be a powerful tool and a powerful medicine for our own minds to be able to transform the adversity that's coming collectively in our world. And just as individuals, we could really use this to deepen and to really almost speed up our practice if we can use these difficult times. And that by doing that, it gives us a much larger a capacity to look at things in a lot larger perspective and to start looking at things, not just the short-term stuff that we're looking at kind of in the next year, but also very, very long-term perspective. So I wanted to give you some of the things that I've been using to help my mind. First, the most powerful practice of the Buddha is the thought training. And as I'm looking at the world and the national events, I'm trying to turn my mind to increase my compassion, to increase my understanding, my wisdom, my fortitude, my equanimity. And there's this one verse in 8 verses of thought transformation. I've changed one word in that verse, and I've been using it a lot. Whenever I see or hear a person of bad nature who is overwhelmed by negative energy and intense suffering, I will hold such a rare one dear as if I had found a precious treasure. I'm really trying to use that to realize that just like me, although on a much more public scale, there are people of great influence right now that are just as confused as I am some of the time on how to create the causes for happiness and how to avoid the causes for suffering. And that there are a few folks out there right now that are really, really confused. So instead of getting all bent out of shape about it, to have these thought training verses really fuel my bodhicitta. The second thing that's been really helpful, because we've been having a lot of teachings on emptiness this year, is to see that all the karmic events, all the people, lack any type of inherent solid existence. And there are some really big personalities out there. There's a lot of big identity. And it's real easy to see these folks existing from their own side, bigger than they appear, and to realize that those personas and those personalities are dependent arisings, that there are these limitless causes and conditions that bring all beings into existence, and that it's not just black or white. And that we're all karmic bubbles arising from these limitless causes and conditions. And if we were to take each one of these powerful political figures and put them under ultimate analysis, believe it or not, we're not going to be able to find anybody. There's nobody there existing the way in which they appear. And it's such an opportunity because just like us, the personas, the identities are so strong. And that's what we relate to. So I'm trying to use what little I know of emptiness to sort of loosen my judgments, loosen my bias, loosen my frustration and my disturbing mind by seeing there's nobody findable under ultimate analysis, just these karmic bubbles, arising due to who knows which causes and conditions. The other thing that's been really helping me is to look at my own karma. That as a citizen of this country and a citizen of this world, that I have created the causes to be here. To see the world as a continual ripening of karma, both individually and collectively, really helps me to veer away from this sometimes sense of powerlessness that I think sometimes when we have these very transforming, tumultuous times in our world, that sometimes it feels like we don't have any power, we don't have any say. But when I look at it from my viewpoint of that, I'm here, I've created the causes to be in this country, in this world, at this time, with all the conducive circumstances to practice, as well as being in difficult times, then I don't feel so in the victim role, or I don't have any say, or I don't have any power, that I have some responsibility on why I'm here and why I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing. And that we don't have to participate, we don't have to react in a disturbed way to whatever destructive rhetoric and events, but to see it as an incredible opportunity to benefit and to be an example of goodness in the world. That's what I keep coming back to. I said, what we're doing here at the Abbey is so powerful, and that I can really focus my energy on continuing to do that. And how we approach and respond to what is going on is where the mind training and the meditations on emptiness really have been helping me. The other thing that also has been helpful, the karma piece is so big as far as settling my mind, is that the candidates, the world leaders, who's ever out there right now, that to see the karma that is ripening for them to be in such positions of influence, such positions of power and wealth, that they have created that due to past virtue. And that the way that they are using that wealth, that power and influence in a dangerous and destructive way is also due to their past karma. That karma is not black and white, it's not good or bad. It's all these incredible causes arising that you can see the virtuous karma ripening and you can see the negative karma ripening. So it's not like all set in stone. And also to see that by whatever actions any of us are creating on the world stage or not, is that we're creating the causes for what type of karma we're going to be creating in the future. And so when I can look at these individuals and just see sometimes their influence on the world, I could say, gosh, they are creating some really difficult ripening in the future. And to try to generate some compassion for them rather than saying, serves you right, is to say, oh my goodness, and being in the position that they are. So it helps me cultivate some compassion rather than hatred or fear. And then lastly, is despite the media's effort to focus on just these negative dramas that people are doing, there's also these amazingly courageous, compassionate, and wise actions that are sort of flying in the face of all of this. And I have a lot, and because I've been kind of tracking these, because I need them, I need role models in my life, whoever they are, anonymous or famous, to see them as exemplifying all the good qualities and really having a lot of courage, compassion, fearlessness, forgiveness, fortitude, and that it helps me to have hope and gratitude and respect for them. And then to be able to dedicate my merit for them specifically so that they continue to have long and healthy lives, and that they continue to be able to have no obstacles for their type of benefit and influence in the world. And so that's what I've been trying to do, is looking for whether it's the new mayor of London, the new Muslim mayor of London, just wishing may he have no obstacles, may he be able to have the fearlessness and the equanimity that he has to have been elected. So I'm really trying to use the wonderful role models of the world to inspire me. And so I just wanted to share with you one person who has really inspired me, and it was in the back of one of our news magazines. Her name is Moina Shak, and she lives in Fremont, California. She is a Muslim by faith, originally from Pakistan. She moved to the United States a long time ago. She had a computer sales business for a number of years until the .com thing kind of went bust. And then she said when 9/11 happened, it completely changed her life. And that she wasn't going to stay home and feel like a victim and sit home and cry. That was when so she went from being a computer tech owner of a company that did a lot of techie stuff to being a community activist. And she said where she lives in a very diverse community. Evidently Fremont is liberal and has a lot of different ethnicities. And that she said she felt very, very called to educate people about who she was and about what her faith teaches her. And she says, in the Muslim faith, we are taught from childhood to know our neighbors in 40 homes within our radius and to make sure that everyone is doing well and has food on their table. And so what she started to do, which is so creative, is that she wanted to talk to people, whether they were standing in line, wherever she would find a chance, she would introduce herself. She's 56 years old. She began becoming an ambassador in Fremont, California, to help some of the immigrant senior, they have a number of immigrants who don't speak English, so she was trying to use her language from Pakistan to help integrate them into the community. And then when the San Bernardino tragedy happened last year, she said it just really, really shook her to the core. And that she realized that in the work that she wanted to promote tolerance, and that she didn't want to just be preaching to the choir. So what she ended up doing is that she ended up going to a coffee shop and inviting people with a sign at her table that says, "Meet a Muslim." And she put an ad in the paper. The newspaper told me to be prepared for no one to show up, so I just brought my laptop and planned to do some work. But I didn't need to. When I got to the coffee shop ahead of schedule, there were already 20 people there. By the time it was over, there were over 100 people there who wanted to know. She says, "I'm a Muslim in a headscarf, but I'm also an ordinary American. I have children. I've raised them here. I've sent them to school. And what happened in San Bernardino was not the real Islam." So many wanted to talk to her about San Bernardino. They wanted to know about radical Islam. They wanted to know about the Shiites. They wanted about the Sunnis. They wanted to know about the oppression of Muslim women. And she was just there for them. There were a few people that were there that were kind of trying to box Muslims in as extremists and terrorists. And she basically said, I said that killers don't represent the true Islam. So she's done about 11 of these. And she goes to places of worship, she goes to schools, she goes to senior home living facilities, she goes to mobile home parks. And she takes this "Meet a Muslim," and she parks herself, and anybody who wants to come and ask her any questions. So her goal is to change one person, one heart at a time. People need to live together with compassion and acceptance. We Muslim Americans are not going anywhere. No one else is either. And we're all in this fight against hatred together. So when I saw this article, it was just so like her courage, her creativity, her willingness, and her open-mindedness. And so I really wanted to share that this is what's really fueling my practice and counteracting any type of fear and frustration and bewilderment that I have going on as far as what's happening in the world. So for Moina Shak, I really bow to you wherever you in Fremont, California, and to all the wonderful human beings who are really walking their talk.